Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's rare when I get to present a watch that I love so much I desire to purchase it. And that's exactly what we have here today. Launched in 2017, this is the HYT H0. It is a stainless steel black DLC case, though primarily constructed of sapphire. The case itself is more of a little platform for the rest of the watch, with the sapphire itself enclosing the 48.8 millimeter diameter case and providing most of the scratch resistance too. The watch is 18.8 millimeters thick, but you'll see it doesn't quite wear that large on the wrist. Though it's a 48.8, because it is a lugless watch, it doesn't wear that big. And it's the same distance across the wrist, 48.8 millimeters, that it is in diameter. Taking a quick look at the hardware and the software, the strap itself has a lovely dimple pattern that adds rows as well as columns of striation across a relatively thick strap that's held on by screws. You can see the attention to detail here with the screws blackened on the underside to match the DLC of the case, and because they are held on by screws, not spring bars, there's a lot of security there. The strap is also thick and unlikely to ever tear. It'll have a long service life, and you can see that is HYT branded on the bottom. It's attached to a titanium DLC buckle, and yes, it is a titanium DLC buckle. If that sounds a little bit oddball, the watch is steel, the clasp is titanium. Twin trigger release, it pops open. It's a single fold, and then there's a brilliant little quick adjust system inside. This little micro adjuster has a trigger that you press, and then you can pull it in or out, and there are a couple of incremental stops that allow you to size precisely. So this is a thoughtful detail that every watch with a clasp should include. As I mentioned, the watch is mostly sapphire, which is to say, it has a big sapphire cambered crystal over its top, and sapphire being second only to diamond in hardness, its chemical name is corundum, it's never going to scratch, and nothing is ever going to get to the case. When this watch is on the wrist, it's effectively scratch-proof. Don't whack it against an immovable object, but again, even if it's brushed against an immovable object, and that happens to be granite, you're probably still not going to scratch it. Take a quick look on my wrist. I think it's always important to get a wrist shot, and my wrist is fairly small. It's 16 centimeters. So you can see when this watch is on my wrist, it is very comfortable. From over the top, you can see there's plenty of clearance on either side, and then down the barrel, you can really see how much clearance I've got on each side. I think you could probably get away with wearing this watch on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. Not super thin, though, with some sleeves, and I've worn a couple of them. The shirt will ride up over the rounded side of that sapphire. Now, taking a quick look at the timepiece, you can see that the case itself does have some nuance about it. It is black DLC, yes, but it's also polished where it meets the sapphire. There's a little polished rim around the top of the case, and then the case flanks themselves are satin finished. So you can see the contrast between that satin and the polish. The crown itself features a ceramic knurled shoulder around it for scratch resistance, and then you can see it's been DLC treated as well with a combination of media blasted face and then polished and relieved H and surround. So there's some detail even on the crown that's thoughtful and much appreciated. You can see there's a 24-hour format ringing at the outer face of the dial, and the dial is wraparound. So you'll see the primary dial is in 12-hour format. It starts at 1 and then proceeds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, continues up the other side, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, the way this works is it's a regulator. So you've got two immiscible liquids, and they're actually in little bellows reservoirs at center. The clear one is oil-based. The color one is water-based. That's why that meniscus, the little separation between them, will never blend, and it will never dull, because these two liquids cannot mix. Okay, you've got your hours, your minutes, and your seconds. Then you've got a power reserve indicator that turns from black to green as you wind it up. Manual wind power reserve, and the power reserve is 65 hours. Now, taking a quick look at the depth of the dial, you can see that there are little separate discs for the seconds. There's a little raised platform for the minutes, and then there's a separate disc framing the power reserve. There's some indices in board that you can actually read, and the center dial is in a matte finish. Pull the crown out, start turning, and all of a sudden you can see that time moves quickly. The fluid display reacts very quickly to a change in the time, and what happens is it is a regulator, of course, with your hours, minutes, and seconds, but when the hours reach the end of their track, it also becomes a retrograde as the hour indication resumes on the other side, 5, 6, 6, 7, and it continues its trek up around the dial, so it effectively resets every 12 hours. Now, roll this one over, 30 meters water resistant, so this is not the kind of watch you would take swimming. Let me bring my polishing cloth in here. And you can see that the movement is, well, rather conventional. A lot of folks are surprised to learn that it is a Swiss lever movement on the reverse side, not some sort of hybrid electronic tech. There is a subsidiary Pressiflex to HYT that works on all of the fluid elements. The borosilicate tube that holds the liquids, the two reservoirs that are incredibly thin, and they're actually manufactured in Philadelphia. So all of this technology comes from aerospace, defense contractors, and in some cases also medical equipment manufacturers. But that's the HYT side of things with the fluid. The movement comes from Chronode, which is a well-known movement constructor that has worked with many brands over the years, from Harry Winston with the Opus series to Chapek. This watch right here has the 65-hour manual wind movement, 35 joules, caliber H101, a full balance bridge for shock resistant. It beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour. As you can see, there's satination on the wheels, there's satination on the click and the barrel, black polished screw heads. You can see that it's a rather techno-industrial look with frosted finish on the bridges and plates and a machined bevel. But it is very much a manual wind Swiss lever escape, and you can actually see that going. And very conventional in its architecture, although surprising, I must say, in its power reserve, as given the demands of the system, I didn't expect them to get 65 hours out of a single barrel. This watch is technically impressive and aesthetically outstanding. It's also ergonomically genius because it wears on my wrist. Reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we are back with the HYT H0 by night.